Hi guys, Richard Arting here from SharpshootingUK. I've got a new IOR to talk to you about today, the very exciting Lutaz 3-25. Very compact. That's it compared to the Crusader 5.8-40 by 56. So like the Recon, it's much more versatile. You put it on more rifles without it looking uber tactical and chunky. And you'll notice that we have new turrets here. This is the difference from the normal IOR turrets. So, with your normal IOR turrets, there's no lift to turn. This section here is simply because this collar has been moved down to act as a zero stop. You can adjust this whole ring up and down to get it where you want it to line up with the markings and to bottom out if you want to, etc, etc. I've done a detailed video on them before. What you've got with the new ones is this knurling on the top and excuse me, up to turn, down to lock. Okay. Now it will turn on lock, but it's supposed to be unlocked, and it feels nice there. And you've got a new zero stop as well, which is really slick. I really do like this. You simply zero your scope and then you do that nut up and you zero stopped. It is as simple as that. It's a really easy system. You just crack on with your zeroing as normal. Right, that's my zero. You move your collar round to zero here in the normal way with the little nuts. You undo these and rotate this whole bottom collar round to where you want it, and then you do up that Allen key in the top until it tightens, and then that is where your stop is. I really like that. I really like that. I'm not quite so convinced with the unlock system. To my mind, one, I don't like lift to turn. It's very popular, but it's not my preference, so it's not something that I was hopping up and down about. But more, I think, what I'm concerned about is that when you do unlock it, the turrets just feel a little bit less clicky and positive than they used to. An IOR has never had real click turrets. They're wide apart and they're consistent and they're easy to feel, and I've never had any problem at all. But there are those who come from S&B, for example, or the new Swarovski X5 is a good example, where the clicks are so sharp and positive, you can really hear them. They've never been that loud on a IOR. And then this is a step backwards, not forwards on that front. But hey, perfectly positive, perfectly consistent, you know, excellent internal reliability, I don't doubt. You know, not a problem. It's just that this has bumped the price up on this scope. And whilst it is still an epic bargain compared to other scopes that will do such an amazing mag range, its main problem is that its big brother, the Recon, the IOR Recon 4-28, which is on a 40mm tube, not 35, is several £100s cheaper. And there is another issue there. The Recon is better. What the Lutaz has done is, by sticking to the relatively small 35mm tube rather than the 40, it's tried to keep this very lightweight and, you know, the more rifles it can go on, the more scopes you're going to sell, and you know, I can respect that. It's one of the things I said about the Recon was that compared to your really big IORs, you know, it's really quite compact. Look at the difference. So that's not a Recon, guys. That's a Crusader, just to be clear. The Recon is basically just like this, but 40mm, and it's what, £300 cheaper. And that's my problem with the Lutaz. The Lutaz is a genius scope if it stood alone, and compared to anything else out there, it's such a bargain at about £1,900. Just remarkable. The problem is that at £1,600 or £1,650, whatever it is, you've got the Recon 4-28, which is one of the best scopes money can buy. And I have to say that optically, the Recon is effortlessly better because it has that extra tube diameter to play with. When you have the wider tubes, as I've said time and again, you can compromise less on the fundamentals: field of view, optical quality, adjustment range, and eye relief. So 3-25 is incredibly handy. It's a really popular mag range that. It does both brilliantly. It is an unbelievable optical piece of work. It's just that when you compare it to its big brother, the Recon with its 40mm tube is better at dusk. It's just a bit brighter when push comes to shove, and you know, it's that much cheaper. So, you know, I wholeheartedly recommend this scope, but only with the caveat that the Recon is even better, and unless you desperately want the new turrets, and you really want to keep the tube size down. And to tell the truth, the tube size per se is not, to my mind, relevant. It's the overall length and bulk that is the key, and it doesn't make a jot of difference whether it's 35 or 40mm. The Recon, I wish I had one here, is very similar to this. It's just that tiny bit wider. So the windage turret is unchanged. It doesn't lock. Red is left, and white is right. 1/10 of a mil, easily resettable. Well, not that easily, but you know, not a problem. It's not a single screw like on some scopes. Tier 1 mounts. Tier 1 do all the sizes that you need for IOR, including 40. And in 35mm you can get their fantastic uni mount, 34. And you can have elevation built into the uni mount as well as into the mount at the bottom. So you're going to get out there. But of course, the Lutaz has got a really epic amount of adjustment range in it. Not quite as much as the 40s, but you know, still 100 minutes sort of area. So you know, really good for getting you out there with the loopy calibers. So the IORs have always had very contrasty glass, and what you ideally want is that perfect mix, like the V8, for example, can show, of brightness with high contrast. If you go too white and bright, you definitely lose out, although it always looks good to the eye, a white and bright scopes, very, very bluey lenses. And if you have too much contrast, things don't look bright enough. And there is a magic mix. And I feel that IOR have incrementally been working toward that perfect mix. I feel, for example, that the 40mm Crusader and the Recon are getting that mix better and better generation by generation from the early IORs, which were known as having excellent contrast, but you know, it's always attractive if you can have glass that's very bright, and they're really getting there. And I feel that the Lutaz is the best IOR glass yet with regards to that that mix, that perfect balance of all the optical qualities. It is really, really something. It's very, very like the V8 glass. The problem compared to the best scopes in the world, and indeed, especially its stablemate, the Recon, is that with the smaller tube at 25, all is well, but when push comes to shove in low light and you start to really test the transmission, it isn't as good as other alphas at dusk. Not helped by the fact that the IOR focus is very snappy. The depth of field's very shallow. I personally like that. It's good for target shooting and precision. But when it comes to dusk, having unfussy focusing and a wide depth of field, like the V8 does, for example, will help you. So I feel that the 3-25, which a lot of people will see as a really useful stalking scope, believe it or not. A lot of people are using the Recons. I know some people don't like it, but the fact of the matter is that tactical scopes that aren't too bulky are popular for all-round rifles, which themselves are very popular at the moment. People who want to carry their rifle and shoot medium range deer, and then take it to the range and dial out to 600 yards, etc. And the Recon is a great scope for that, and the Lutaz will be very popular for that too. The problem is that at dusk it is a little weaker than the rest of the alpha pack, so bear that in mind. If you want that last light performance, the Recon is quite significantly better at last light. In decent light, the 3-25 works excellently. It's got the latest turrets. It is a bit of a masterpiece, and it is that little bit more compact with that lighter tube. There is definitely progress on these turrets with the zero stop. That is simpler than it was before, and that's to be commended. It does have the lift to turn, and therefore, the locking system inherent in that. I personally am not particularly interested in that, but it is something that might be popular, so that's something. The IR system has changed slightly. I'm not sure I had a problem with the IR being on the saddle. And that brings us to the point here that this is not a tube focus scope. If you look at the 40s, they don't have side focus here. This is illumination. That is the focus. It's a kind of, instead of an adjustable objective, it's kind of halfway down. I call it tube focus. I think it's really nice feeling. It's very, very precise, tactile. I find it easy to get to. I am a complete convert to it, especially as I feel that doing it there rather than here helps the optical qualities of the scope. I can't really prove it, but it just seems to make for killer resolution. What they've done on this 35mm scope is they've stuck with the normal system where the focus is on the side here, and you see that collar there, that slides, and then the illumination is on the outside. I don't like that as much as the other system, but hey, I've had a lot of IORs, I've got my preferences, and I'm just trying to point out the differences here. It's no biggie. The IR is well controlled, works well. You tap either one for on, and then up down for how bright you want it. It automatically switches off these days. Good stuff. And at what are these, 1900 quid? It's just an unbelievable piece of kit. It's just thwarted by the fact that its big brother, the Recon, is inconsequentially more bulky. It's just not relevant. The wider tube just doesn't really matter, and it is optically better. It's a lot cheaper. So that's the bottom line here. If you want the latest turrets, you're still getting a killer bargain, well under £2,000. It will do 3-25 in a world-class manner, with the slight exception that the transmission suffers ever so slightly against the best in the world at dusk. But if you want slightly better performance and you don't want the new turrets, you're not worried about lift to turn, then the Recon is a safer bet. I also think the 4-28 is a better mag range for what I do, in that I don't need the 3, but I could do with that little extra at the top. So I'm a big fan of 4-28. But this, without a doubt, is another world-class scope from IOR here in a very exciting mag range. 3-25 is definitely going to be popular, and of course, you know, it is moving away from their reputation for mega bulk. This is a significant move towards versatility over epic bulk, and this and the Recon are what you should be considering if you're looking for an all-rounder. You've got an incredible range of adjustment, beautiful ret. It has these floating dots on the ret. Look it up on the internet, where that classic floating dot ret from IOR, which I've always been a really big fan of, and they keep tweaking it ever so slightly. And case in point is that at the mill markers, if you imagine you're holding off a mill left and a mill high, you're effectively in the air, aren't you? Well, what they've done is they've put these tiny little dots there, like you would use on a Horus ret, and it just it's just a little bit of progress. They're really paying attention and incrementally improving things. So that's moved forward. The turrets have moved forward. You know, IOR are not resting on their laurels. You know, they've got the Recon, which is untouchable, and then they go and make competition for it in their own range. It's remarkable. But there it is. This is the 35mm version, and yeah, all the latest bits and pieces. And as I say, I think the glass is the best yet in its style, in the way that it balances contrast and brightness. Absolutely remarkable glass. If they start putting that in their big 40mm, it's going to just be untouchable.